Meeting to order.
Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Dr. Vogt?
Here.
Mrs. Wittes? Here. Dr. Selly?
Here.
Mr. Dangler?
Here. Do we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I hereby certify that this meeting has been published in the newspapers in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and posted as required by law.
Before we continue with the agenda, I would like to just take a moment of silence. We lost four of our Long Branch residents since the last time we met that we know of. Ms. Annie Grant, Mr. Kenneth Warren, Captain Peter Johns, and Mr. Donald Henry Sr. So if we could just have a moment of silence for them, please. Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 26, 2019.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Vieira?
Yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes?
Yes.
Dr. Selly?
Yes.
Mr. Dangler?
Yes. This evening we have no ordinance for consideration for public hearing on final consideration. Ordinance for public introduction. This is the first reading of ordinance 1519 entitled Ordinance Amending Section 325-3G, Parking Time Limited on Certain Streets. I need a motion to introduce the first reading, advertised and posted according to law, and set the public hearing for July 24th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Vieira?
Yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes?
Yes.
Dr. Selly?
Yes.
Mr. Dangler?
Yes. Ordinance number 1619 has been removed from the agenda this evening. I need a motion to open the public portion of this meeting for all comments.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If there's anyone in the audience that has a comment to make, please step to the podium, state their name and address clearly for the record. You will be given 5 minutes and may only speak once.
Good evening, Mayor Perrone and members of the council. My name is Anita Clavering, and I live on 161 Garrett Drive. I am here tonight just to thank everyone who came to the Ocean Fest last Thursday. I worked with motions to recite a few lines of the Constitution with Dr. Vogt and others. I could not think of a better way to celebrate the 4th of July. I also want to thank the Long Branch police officers who helped me through the grass and up and down the steps to the ladies' room. I am grateful to the people who made Ocean Fest a wonderful event for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are we commenting on? I came in late.
This is public
Public
participation.
On the what?
This is public
Public
comment.
portion. Public portion.
The public what?
This is the time for you to speak, Mr. Vignoli, yes.
Wait, is this the regular public part?
Yes.
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 Oh, well, I gotta prepare my notes. I thought this was like on some...
No,
No, it is not, sir.
Can I prepare my notes?
please.
There's no one else here?
Is there anyone else? Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Guess I should speak in the mic. Good evening to the City Council. My name is Marsha Brown. I live at 111 Jolene Avenue. And I, too, would like to commend the City of Long Branch. I work in Newark, sorry about that. City of Long Branch for the wonderful Ocean Fest Day. It really was wonderful. My church was out there. We had a booth. And the number of people who came, the demeanor of the officers. And I live on Joe Line, so that even the traffic seemed to be managed better. So that was really a good thing. So thank you for all that you did for that. Two things I want to mention. One is, in the past, there have been comments at the City Council meeting about the programming for young people in the City of Newark. I may not know everything that's going on, and it would probably be a good idea to indicate where people, families, and other people who are interested in where to go to find out what's here for their young people to be posted somewhere would be great. But I was also thinking about whether the City of Long Branch could begin thinking about a community center. This is a family-based center. The model that I have in mind is the one that's in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It's amazing. They have roller skating, ice skating, after school learning, fitness, wellness, mini golf. It's just an amazing center. It's 116,000 square feet. We probably wouldn't need that much. It's been funded by businesses and developer fees or funding from the state of New Jersey. There's been a plethora of funding options, but I would like to suggest that there's something that we look into. I think it would really bring the city to another level. It would bring the kind of families here that perhaps we don't have here now, but something to think about, and I'd be happy to be a researcher for that. The final thing is on transitional housing. I've talked with the mayor about that and other people. You know, during the winter season, Code Blue, there are a number of people who are homeless. And I actually was surprised to find out that the City of Long Branch has about 18% of people living in poverty. And what I was also surprised to find out is the age range. It's between 18 and 35. So that tells me something about what's happening with the younger populations who are in the City of Newark that who may be homeless are younger people, maybe veterans, but certainly women, maybe single households. And so we should think about what kind of transitional options might be available for them. And I took the liberty of printing out some information on tiny houses.
Oops.
Which is an option that cities like Seattle and Dallas and Austin and others are looking into. They have a much more bigger and deeper homeless problem. We don't, and so it may be something that we can think about. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vincent Lepore, 33 Ocean Terrace, Long Branch, requesting 1-minute notification. At the last council meeting, council approved the consultant to evaluate the Long Branch Police Department. I'd like to ask a couple of questions this evening to Administrator Jackson because of his extensive police background and administration background. Citing our conversation at the Insurance Commission meeting again, you described that the State Attorney General has progressive discipline procedures concerning law enforcement officials. At the last council meeting, I brought up some options, and one of them was Garrity. The question now being, outside of extremely aggravating offenses, which would automatically subject a law enforcement official to disciplinary measures, being that Garrity is cited in the AG guidelines, could Garrity be effectuated to City of Long Branch law enforcement officials?
You want me to answer?
I've never utilized or issued a Garrity waiver. It's something that, to my knowledge, has to be approved by the prosecutor. A local law enforcement officer, during the course of an investigation, can't simply make that decision. And for those that aren't aware, if an officer is accused of a criminal act and there's a criminal investigation that's pursuing, that officer still has the ability to invoke their Fifth Amendment right and subsequent to a Miranda warning, choose not to participate or to answer questions. However, subsequent to that invocation of those rights, the employing agency can still compel the officer to answer questions as part of an administrative investigation. However, that's not a decision that is made on the local level. In my knowledge of it, an assistant prosecutor would have to approve that. Mr. Raynon would know better than I. He was an assistant prosecutor.
That's correct, Mr. So a Garrity warning is given to a police officer that during the course of an administrative hearing that essentially says to him, you are required to answer these questions, and the prosecutor's office can then essentially give a waiver, and anything that's said then in that administrative thing can't be used in a criminal case.
Right.
So that's what Garrity is. Garrity has to do with the rights that are afforded to a police officer who's interviewed. That's all that Garrity applies to.
The superiors to that police officer do have the right under Garrity to ask job-related questions.
Absolutely.
And they can enforce disciplinary measures related to the answers that were job-related, including termination.
Correct. Yes.
And that's independent of criminal prosecution.
It's not a criminal. It's actually administrative. But you could terminate somebody. That's the administrative part of it. What you can't use is whatever they say after giving the Garrity waiver. They can't use that in a criminal case against them. So if there was a criminal prosecution, but there are lots of offenses that can get you terminated that are not criminal. I mean, there are gross behaviors that can get you terminated from being a police officer that aren't necessarily criminal behaviors.
So the bottom line is Garrity can be applied to Long Branch law enforcement officials.
It is as a matter of state law, it is applied as part of the Attorney General's guidelines on internal affairs investigations that are required to be adopted by all municipalities. So Garrity applies.
And
yes.
that would also include lieutenants, captains, police chiefs, and civilian directors.
Well, the answer is yes. It applies to all. It applies to all of them. Yes.
All right. Then why did the council go out and hire a consultant when the taxpayers could have been saved money by just inviting the Attorney General to come in and evaluate the Long Branch Police Department?
Are you asking me, Mr. Lepore?
Either the administrator...
You're asking anybody?
The administrator or Mr. Raynon. They both answered.
The answer is I don't know that the Attorney General has certain powers. As far as I know, they do not come in and do the kind of top to bottom management reviews of police departments that you're asking. They'll come in and audit if the county prosecutor asks them to do it, it would be the county prosecutor you'd go to first. They come in and audit your internal affairs part of it. They will do that. But they won't audit whether or not you have enough police cars, whether or not you have enough police officers, whether or not you're staffed correctly, whether or not your equipment is. They don't do those kind of audits. They'll only audit your internal affairs. That's the only thing that they'll do.
Right. So I mean, we're talking.
I'll conclude right now. So my point is, I believe the governing body did not bring in the Attorney General because the Attorney General, with many of the incidences in LBPD, would rise to the concern of the state attorney general, and they would proceed with criminal prosecution. And by hiring a consultant, we've taken a way out of that criminal prosecution to buy time for at least a year. Thank you.
Let me just add, if I may, I know Mr. Lepore doesn't want to hear it, but so the Long Branch Police Department hasn't done a study like this in the past. So we are, it's an organizational review of the whole department. It's something we talked about in the campaign, that we would look at the various departments and so forth. So, as Mr. Raynon said, we're taking a look at everything from hiring, promotional practices, structure, training, staffing, efficiency, et cetera. So it's a little different, I think, than what you're talking about. But again, I don't want to have the conversation, Mr. Lepore. I'm just addressing your question as to why we chose to do it.
I know what I'm talking about. The intrinsic problem with LBPD is cultural, of which the Palones have been part of that culture for many years with LBPD. That's why I requested the administrator be in charge.
Thank you, Mr. Lepore.
Well, it's a point. The Palones have been part of the culture that have led to the problems with LBPD.
Anyone else?
This is on quite a different note.
Ms. Kessler, could you just lower the mic a tad? Thank you.
Alice Kessler, 74 Cedar Avenue, Long Branch. This is sort of just an idea that I would like the council to think about. I came to the city over 40 years ago. I like to think that I'm almost here, almost half a century. And when I first came to the city of Long Branch, it was very nice that the city had a moniker, Long Branch, the friendly city. Well, every morning I walk the boardwalks now. And with the new buildings and the new development, I've been noticing who's walking and who's down on the beach from 6 a.m. early morning. And it's what I would call the Pan-Asian community. Also, I hear a lot of Russian people speaking on the boardwalk. And I'm saying to myself, I know from the library that Long Branch is over 35% Hispanic. So I would like the council to think about doing this. Perhaps an adjustment in the name or the moniker of the city to Long Branch, maybe the friendly global city, the friendly international city, or maybe have a citywide contest, or maybe in the school system, have a citywide contest to possibly just update to reflect more of what Long Branch is today than it was 40 years ago. So I hope you will just think about that and consider it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Good evening. Patty Veracki, 246 Jerome Avenue, Oakhurst. Basically, I have a 3-page of notes here that was printed out with some very serious issues concerning traffic safety and the busing, the transportation of the students in and out and in between Long Branch. And some of them, they're all actually from Facebook. And some of them were extremely concerning. I was going to read each and every one of them, but there's no way that we could have the time to do that. But I will give you the copies of them. Basically, the transportation and the safety of the transporting of the students especially hit a raw nerve with me. And I know that I myself have encountered a few times where the buses are either not driving, correctly themselves, with the students jumping in the school buses, not buckled in, and then if you throw in what the other cars are doing around while the school buses are transporting these children, it makes it even more of a dangerous situation. So the cars that are not stopping for the buses, the parents who are not picking up their children, so that the traffic can flow smoothly. The buses sometimes are just sitting there, so people get frustrated, go around them. And I was wondering if the council could make it a priority to address some of these concerns. We could discuss them more in detail after the council meeting. And perhaps what some of that study that Vince and the council was talking about, and Mr. Raynone and Mr. Jackson would also maybe be eye-opening as to possibly whether maybe there's more officers needed on the road to give tickets and take care of those issues, since maybe there's other problems at the other end of town. Thank you.
Hi. Rice, I live in Elbron. I just thought I'd follow up to what Patty said, because some of my comments are on that list. It's one of these quality of life issues that I think this council has been really great in addressing since you started, especially those things that really kind of bring a balance back to Long Branch with all of the overdevelopment. To maybe try and summarize what Patty was saying, what a lot of us are seeing is an abundance of really unsafe driving in the neighborhoods from out-of-towners, from New Yorkers. It's like we watch out for the orange plates, because we're finding that, for example, in Elbron, you guys just had the line striped. It looks beautiful. The stop sign, the line is right there at the trestle of South Lincoln and Truax. They park, there are New Yorkers that park right on top of that line. So it's not even that people are doing this by accident. It's just that people come into our community and some of us feel like they have no respect, parking in front of driveways. And if we call the police, you will be laughed at. Of course, there are lots of better things to do than come, talk to people about how they park. But it really does become a safety hazard when cars are parked 2 feet from stop signs or on top of the line. It makes it inaccessible for everybody, especially those that are handicapped. The intersection of South Lincoln and Norwood Avenue is extremely dangerous. And I know that that intersection involves the county and also the city of Deal and the city of Ocean Township. It's a weird intersection. But you can sit at that intersection in the summer. This is a summer problem, okay? I don't think this is an all year round problem. This is a summer problem that we see with the increase of people coming into the city. A lot of those comments that Patty saw were about people not stopping for pedestrians in crosswalks. So, maybe like a meeting with some of the people that have been vocal about their concerns would be good, because we could get like a bullet list of what our top priorities are. For instance, crosswalks. We need to improve the visibility of crosswalks. There used to be patrols in Elbron, like somebody at the east side of the train station or at the school all the time. I know because I always point them out to my son in case he gets lost, because he's learning the neighborhood. I haven't seen those. I get run off the road at Truax because I do 25. People get really aggressive, and that's really stressful when you're living here and all of a sudden the traffic increases and then people are rushing you, and there's tons of kids all around with no helmets. And I know the police just recently put out like a zero tolerance bike safety kind of thing. So I don't see any of that happening, and I feel like it's an accident waiting to happen. And then the second thing, because Sheriff Golden inspired me, so I thought I'd bring up that application and agreement that the City of Long Branch signed in 2017 with the Department of Justice, where they agreed to cooperate with ICE. And I want to know if part of the police review could be looking at where that stands, where that agreement stands. It was 5 years of funding, I think, that came from the Department of Justice for community policing, and the police department signed an agreement had to sign an agreement to cooperate with ICE in order to get that funding. So I think all of you have a copy of that application. It's the same one where they said that we had a youth assault problem and would work with the school district and all these programs, and no one knew about it. And then third, I haven't been here a while, I think it might be time in terms of those quality of life things, if we can start just planting the seeds and really thinking about rent control and how we can maybe get something in town for that. And good job, everybody. All the events in town have been great. My son went down to the accessible beach on 4th of July and watched the fireworks, and it's been really great. So I see all the good things that you're doing. So hopefully the traffic thing, we can like do something. Thanks.
So Rice,
Ms. Mazza.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Ms. Mazza and
Thank you.
Patty as well. I spoke to Chief Roebuck in regards to some of the traffic issues, just from Facebook and so on. And I know that they have, the last couple of days, have given out more than 20 citations for whether speeding, reckless driving, or what have you. So they are aware in that L. Brown area, and that they are trying to do. Okay. Thank you.
So Rice, we have been, just to piggyback on what Council President said, you know, we try to be responsive to what we see and hear. As the Council President mentioned, you know, we've been following Facebook and try to be responsive in terms of any of the issues. Since Monday evening, there has been a police officer on the 3 to 11 shift dedicated just to that area, and as Councilman Dangler indicated, there's been a minimum of 10 summonses issued each night. That person rotates around some of the areas that have been talked about, or some of the hot spots, so to speak, and that individual is out there this evening and will continue to be there. So we always, you know, we want to be responsive, and we try to do the best we can, and we're stepping up the enforcement. Did you have anything to add?
You hit the topic, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jack Bentley. I live at 296 West End Avenue here in Long Branch. And good evening to the council, Mayor Pallone. I come with quality of life complaints. I've already been covered pretty well by this young lady over here. But West End Avenue is I believe, an east to west corridor in town. And it gets an awful lot of traffic. We get all the school buses. We get a lot of Chicken Delight cars coming up and down the street. We get a lot of very high-speed traffic on the street. I'd say the average rate of speed on my street is probably 45 miles an hour. I'm sure that if you came and sat on my front porch for an hour, you would see cars and motorcycles going in excess of 70 miles an hour. And I'm not exaggerating. This is the way it is. We don't sit on the front porch anymore. Well, we do. We sit there for a little bit, but when the traffic starts, especially around 6 o'clock, 6:30, you can't sit out there. We've got potholes out in front of our house. The Kellys had developed the Primavera landscape area about 16 years ago. And they redid the street up to a point. But unfortunately, there was one section of street that has become pretty much destroyed. We have potholes that every now and then a truck will come by and they'll put some coal patch in it, tamp it down, go away. Within a few hours or a day or two, the coal patch is gone. Which leads me to the construction trucks on the street. The construction trucks with the ladders on top. And I shouldn't complain. I used to be one of them. But these are fairly heavy trucks, E350s, some 450s with 6 or 7 ladders up on top. They hit those potholes at 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour, and boom, 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 and you've got all kinds of metal on metal making noise. So then we go in the backyard. In the backyard, I can't hear everything. It's beautiful back there. That's one thing. We got speeding throughout the town, and I know it's hard to handle. But I do an awful lot of work, or did an awful lot of work in Rumson and Fairhaven. You wouldn't dare drive in Fairhaven the way you drive in Long Branch. You just wouldn't do it. If you did it, you'd be up in front of a judge on the following Wednesday or whenever they had their court hearings, and you'd be given a ticket. Rumson, the same thing. Long Branch is no different. We've got an excellent police force here. I called the police 2 weeks ago, and a young gentleman stopped by the house. The person at the desk that I spoke to said, we'll have a police presence there in a few minutes. They sent a young officer over, and he's a perfect example of an officer, in my opinion. And he sat there for a little while. That was the police presence. Believe it or not, the car sped past him. They had no respect for the police car parked over there. When he was riding, his head was down, you know. That was one thing. Loud mufflers, that's another thing. We've got guys coming down the street and shifting down into second gear out in front of my house and letting it back down all the way up until Westwood Avenue. It's equivalent to a Jacobs engine braking system when you do it on a 1200 Harley. It's a hell of a noise. Loud mufflers. Mowing the lawns until 7:30 at night. That's something else. You can't sit in the backyard because you got the lawnmowers going all over the place. You can't sit in the front yard because you got speeding traffic coming down the street. Goes on until dusk and on Sundays. I built a house on Morrill. I built several houses in Long Branch. I built a house one time over behind 7-Eleven, that next street. And I had the electrician in there on Sunday wiring. He wasn't making any noise. He was drilling and pulling wires. And we had a police car pull up over here. We had a police car pull up over here. And 2 policemen came up to the house and escorted us off the property. That was in the 80s. I don't know. I think that you're on the right track, but I think that West End Avenue should be a priority. It's a major highway. Anybody going down into West End, if they come from uptown, chances are they're going to come down West End Avenue. If you're coming out of West End restaurant area, I'll call it, and you're going over to West Long Branch, you're going to probably go up West End Avenue at one time or another. I don't mean to be a grudge or complainer, but I think these are things that could really, we've got a great police force, we've got plenty of personnel. I think there should be, in the West End district, I remember when Sims used to be over there, when I call Sims, come over and straighten anything out. Now they send a Class 3 summer guy over.
Excuse me, sir. What is your last name?
My name's Jack Bentley.
Bentley?
Bentley. Like the car that I don't have. At any rate, that's my beef for the day.
Your,
and
time, sir.
I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And let's keep up the good work and see what we can do to straighten out. Oh, one more complaint.
Sir, yes, but
I'm running out of time, right?
Yes, your time is up, sir.
I'm going to come back next week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Bentley, if you could stay a few minutes after the meeting, I'd like to talk to you. Thank you.
Anyone else? No.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Claude Tricott. I reside on Oakwood Avenue. I'm a homeowner. We have a chronic speeding problem on Oakwood Avenue. I've been there 29 years. We've had numerous traffic problems. One night about 10 years ago, I came home and there was a car wedged between the telephone pole that sits in front of my house and a retaining wall that's, my lawn's about this high off the ground. So whatever fit between the telephone pole and the retaining wall was between the area. The rest of it was pushed back like an accordion. Okay, and one of your Long Branch's finest was directing a tow truck to pull the car out because evidently the guy came over the top of the hill where the Oakwood Apartments is and it was going too fast, lost control. And there's been numerous occasions. The biggest problem with Oakwood Avenue, number one, it's a thoroughfare between two main streets, Wall Street and Broadway. Okay, the second is you got the hill, okay? And people just love, when I come up, since I lived there and I obey the speed limit, I could probably push my car faster than I could drive it. I actually do like 5-10 miles over that hill because I don't know what's coming up on the other side of that hill in the direction of Wall Street coming from Broadway. Bottom line, people do not obey the speed limit. And I don't expect Long Branch Police Department to sit there, but we can use our resources in a better way to sit there and do radar, 7 days a week. The numerous occasions that I've contacted traffic safety, they've been good enough to send a unit out there, but like I said, they can't stay there all the time. The big problem is the dual municipality. We have West Long Branch on one side of the street, Long Branch on the other. The only thing I can say is that it seems to work in other towns. We need to put a speed bump up there on the top of the hill. That's my suggestion. I'm not, telling anybody what to do, but that's about the only thing. We can't, like I said, we can't have patrol cars sitting there, West Long Branch, I mean, it works for a while, but then people, they start speeding up again, and you can't sit there all the time. So we have to come up with a better way of controlling the speed on Oakwood Avenue because it's out of hand. I'll sit on my porch and I'll see people coming down the road 40 miles an hour at, 35. The speed limit's 25, and sometimes I'll yell slow down and they go faster. They don't care. Okay, they just want to just get from point A to point B, and they don't really care about obeying the speed limit. They don't care about someone telling them to slow down. They're very flippant in their attitude, the way they drive their cars. Also, as a pedestrian, my neighbor across the street passed away back in January, and I was going back and forth just to check up on his house until it was sold because there was no one in the house. And a couple times as a pedestrian, someone came flying over that hill in a direction, coming from Wall in a direction Oakwood, and I almost got clipped on foot. People don't care. So I'm just presenting the problem. Hopefully, it seems like there's speeding is all over the city. Everybody's speeding around. Nobody cares, and I don't expect a solution overnight, but I just want to throw that out and see if something can be done to remedy the situation, going forward. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Hi, Roxanne Livingston, 210 Hollywood Terrace. And I guess I just wanted to piggyback off of what Rice and Patty said about the speeding. And John and Mr. Jackson, you're not a stranger to the...
Roxanne, can you raise the mic a little bit? Thank
you. You're not a stranger to the complaints that I've had since November about, the speeding and the traffic, on our very, very short block. And I appreciate it, John, that you sat out in front of our house and came and saw for yourself the problem. So now, as much as I explained it to you, via email and I came to your office, I appreciate that you came to my house and you saw it for yourself. The other day, there was an incident with a really, really good friend of mine. He wanted to share that, Matt Macrinos, who lives on Woodgate, where his little boy, 2 years old, that was almost hit by one of those drivers. I've cleaned up 2 dead cats in front of my house. My son has almost been hit a couple of times. My husband and I have had multiple confrontations, uncomfortable confrontations with the speeding drivers on that block. Prior to me coming to your office in November, I had reached out to the previous administration as well as the police. I can't remember the traffic officer's name that I spoke with. I think it was an Italian name, I can't remember. I spoke with him, and to this day, it's been like 2 years now, and not only has nothing changed, but it has escalated. This is a ticking time bomb. I'm not kidding. Not only in the terms of, somebody's going to get hurt or killed, but the resentment that it creates, towards the, and I'm just going to call it out. It's the seasonal people that come here, okay? The New York drivers are just completely and totally disrespectful, have no regard, for the quality of life, the speeding. We have been quiet, and we have accepted this as, your constituents and basically the heart of this community. But we feel like we're just being ignored. You got to start writing some tickets, I mean, it's not fair, because it's true what previous people had said. The quality of our life is going down. My son cannot ride his bike anymore on the street. He can't drive into town. I fear when he leaves, because it's that bad. It's particularly, as you know, John, it's particularly heinous on my block. Terrible. And I just, the other thing that I just want to ask, does Long Branch have, a community outreach person? I mean, can you reach out to that community, to maybe go towards it and have a conversation? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, really, but I just feel like, it's not only in terms of somebody's going to get hurt or killed, but I think the resentment in this town is growing, and it's real. And it just really, it would be nice, for, the city to just address it once and for all. Thank you.
Roxanne, if you could stay for a moment after the meeting. I know that I was going to reach out to you, so I can do that tonight. Sure. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Hi, Ernest McNolly, Asbury Park, New Jersey. Born and raised in Long Branch, New Jersey. I still try to attend Star of the Sea Church, but I can't. Based on what everybody says here, I'm going to use a phrase that I think is responsible for a lot of problems in Long Branch. Holy smokes. And I bring it up, and I'm going to keep bringing it up, because you have people sitting right at this dais who are members, and they're heavy smokers and drinkers and gamblers and carousers 24/7 on church property. And I have to come here and be disrespected by you telling me that it's all okay. Well, why not bring them to Holy Trinity? We'll solve the whole problem. Why not? Can I get an answer? Mayor?
I'm sorry, Mr. McNolly. I just, I respectfully disagree with what you're saying is going on at the church.
Oh, you do?
I do. I mean, it's been investigated. There's no proof. I can't imagine that the Catholic Church would allow what you're suggesting.
Wait. Is there alcohol there?
I'm sorry?
Is there alcohol there?
You're asking me, how would I know? I would assume not.
Last council meeting, Mr. Dangler said they checked out the alcohol, the smoking, and the cards are legal. So are you saying that there's no alcohol there?
No, that's not what you said.
Well, wait, what did you say?
What I said is that I know of nothing that you're suggesting.
Well, don't you go there?
I have never been there in my life.
You go to the holy name on the first floor.
Holy Name Society.
On the first floor.
I've been downstairs many times with my son, who's an altar server, to celebrate events that they honor the kids. I do not know anything about holy smokes. And Mr. McNolly, if you don't mind, I know where you're going with this. Please, I don't want to get into this. I just respectfully disagree with you of what you're suggesting is going on.
It's your meeting, Mayor. If you want to exist in the Twilight Zone, it's okay with me. But if you talk about policemen, policemen here are driving drunk, killing people on drugs. Pascucci, didn't he run over and kill someone drunk? What'd you have at Jack's Bar? A policeman sexually assault another policeman's daughter. Why denial? Why denial about everything? And you hear people, we're all afraid. And what do you offer? Denial. Okay, let me go on. For the city administrator, who's a former police chief, you're familiar with the FBI and the law enforcement crime reporting system in New Jersey, yes?
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate that. You're also familiar with, there's 565 municipalities in New Jersey? I'm sure. There's 21 counties? I'm sure. Okay, now, they're rated per capita for violent crime. Reported crime. A lot of crime goes unreported, but let's just stick with reported. Are you familiar what Camden is?
No,
It's number one.
Off the top of my head.
Okay, it's number one. Are you familiar with what Asbury is? It's number 2. Are you familiar what Neptune is? It's number 15. Long Branch is number 25, and I think you came from Eatontown? That's number 30. Now, of 565 municipalities, do you think that the 2 cities, only cities in Monmouth County, that's respectful with all the resources that we're given, that we have to live and hear people talk about this? I don't want to use the word disgrace, but it's a disgrace.
Would you like a response?
I would love one.
Okay. The crime rate that you talked about is based on per 1,000 residents?
Per capita.
Right, per 1,000 residents.
Right.
I don't know that the number of residents attributed to a town accounts for the influx of other people. Seasonal towns have a great influx, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people that come in. Activity skyrockets, criminal activity skyrockets accordingly, and you'll see that many of the towns that rank highly with the crime rate, it's because they have very low full-time resident numbers, but they have great increases in their seasonal residents. For example, Belmar, Bradley Beach. Bradley Beach used to rank very high as well.
That's a Dodge answer, and we have prosecutors.
The best one I got.
Well, my time's up, but that's a Dodge answer.
Okay.
Anyone else? We have a motion to close the public portion.
So moved. Second. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We can take the list of resolutions as a consent agenda. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Viera?
Yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes? Yes. Dr. Selly?
Yes.
Mr. Dangler?
Yes. Under miscellaneous, for the good of the order, Councilman Vieira.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for coming. It's nice to see almost full house here. And I want you guys to know, everybody know that we hear your cries for the speeding. I know it happens all over town, even on my street, and that we are going to do something about it, and we're going to try our best. And, with speed bumps, I don't think it's our answer because there might be a problem with other things, issues. But we will address it with our chief, and we'll stay on top of that for you. And thanks for coming again.
Councilwoman Vogt.
Thank you for all of your comments tonight. Certainly, there was a singular message, and we hear you. And just like Councilman Vieira said, it'll be a priority for us to look into. I want to go just make a comment on an initiative that was started a while ago that we followed up on. We had a meeting today that I just think is some good news or movement in a good direction. I'm going to take you back to, I think this was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that, where we had the law enforcement community conversations. And it was a discussion. Apostle Gonzalez, what church was it? What was it? Star of the Sea. And it was particular outreach to our immigrant communities, as a matter of fact, to talk about some of the challenges that they deal with, some of which were really directed at transportation and challenges that they deal with just in general. Apostle Gonzalez, Luciana Silver, and I met today to talk about what are some ways that we can continue to look at what are some of the challenges for the immigrant communities and ways that we can start to address it. So we came up with 3 ideas. I want to just tell you one of them, which was to notice that families that are driving with young children and they don't have the child seats, the baby seats in their car. And many times it's an issue where they can't afford it or they don't. And so we're going to try to start to do something about that in terms of making baby seats available to people. And the way we want to do it is by asking If any of you can make donations of child car seats that you used at one time that you don't need anymore, and if you could contact the Brazilian Center, the Brazilian Help Center, right on Broadway, and the address is 489 Broadway, to drop them off, and we're going to start a whole kind of system of how families would be able to come there, pick them up, and of course use them for a much safer ride for their families. So it's a start. The conversation will continue, and we're kind of excited about it. We'll be asking for people to kind of come and help and donate and support the effort, but that's one of the ways that we're starting off. So again, thank you for all your comments tonight.
Councilwoman Wittes.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to also thank everyone for coming this evening, and we are listening to what you have to say, and most of us are experiencing some of the very things that you've experienced as well. The other thing is I wanted to commend our police department and our fire department, our first aids, for a great 4th of July weekend. It went extremely well, and also a big thank you to the Chamber of Commerce and all those who volunteered their time to make it so successful. And then also, I would like to wish Councilman Vogt and Mayor Pallone a happy birthday, which is coming up. And wish you a great year, a great, healthy, happy year ahead. And have a good evening, all. Thank you.
Councilwoman Selly.
I think the Ocean Fest that we had here in the city, our 29th, was probably one of the best. The weather was glorious. I never saw so many people in my life. And I certainly want to thank all the employees for everything they did. And there was, I think every member of the police department was out there helping us. And for all of those that did help, thank you. And certainly to the residents, thank you for your cooperation. Thank you.
Mayor Pallone.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening and for your comments. I would also like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, our city officials, volunteers, and all the sponsors who did contribute to making this year Ocean Fest event one of the best ones that we've had yet. With the beautiful weather, we had record-breaking attendance on our beaches that day, so thank you again. And I just wanted to end with that our next Fun Day is this Friday, July 12th, at the West End Arts Center from 5 to 8 p.m. Bring families, please join us for some free family fun, including a slip and slide, rock wall, DJ, some treats, and more. So look forward to that again. That's this Friday, 5 to 8 at the West End Arts Center. Thank you.
I would like to respond to, I believe it was Ms. Brown, who brought up the suggestion in regards to the Woodbridge Rec Center. We will be looking into just to see exactly what they're doing and how they did it, see if it's feasible for something we could do here in Long Branch in the future. In regards to 4th of July, I also would like to just commend not just so much the police, but all of the residents and the visitors, because this was the first time in many years that we did not have any arrest. So police presence was there, it was strong, but we all basically acted like we're supposed to act. We had a good time, we partied, the fireworks were great, and I just wanted to say thank you to the public. In regards to the comment that I didn't quite make, in regards to Holy Smokes, just so we're clear, it's a private property. If they choose to allow cigars or to have a drink, I don't believe we can stop that. In regards to if there are girls there or not, I have no idea. No one on this council would have any idea if they have girls upstairs or if they don't have girls upstairs. You'd have to be there firsthand to know that. So all I'm saying is, it is not something that we can control if they're smoking or having a drink on that private property, even though it's a church. We cannot stop that. And lastly, while I'm here as the council president, I do appreciate and certainly I'm an honor to be here, but I won't answer too many questions while you're speaking. I'll try and wait until the end so you can have your full 5 minutes, and then I'll respond at the end as I'm doing tonight. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening.
I was pretty sure that he was going to say that there was a correlation between the crime.